When confronted with disrespect, one of the most effective strategies is to remain calm and composed. It can be challenging, but reacting emotionally, whether through anger or frustration, typically fuels the conflict. By staying level-headed, you show maturity and self-control, which can diffuse tension. When you maintain composure, you're in a better position to think through your next steps rationally. For example, if someone insults you or behaves rudely, pausing before responding can give you time to regain emotional control, allowing you to choose a more measured response. People who are disrespectful often expect a reaction, so withholding an emotional response can be a powerful tactic. This not only preserves your dignity, but also challenges the other person's desire to provoke you. A crucial element in dealing with disrespect is the ability to set firm boundaries. When someone is being rude or inconsiderate, they may believe that their actions will not have consequences. By setting clear limits and stating your expectations up front, you show that disrespect will not be tolerated. Boundaries are not only a means of protecting yourself, but also a tool for teaching others how to treat you. For instance, if someone raises their voice inappropriately, you can calmly state, "I expect to be spoken to respectfully. If this continues, I will leave the conversation." The key is to assert your limits without becoming defensive or angry. Over time, people will come to understand that disrespecting you is not an option. One of the smartest strategies for dealing with disrespect is to recognize that it is not a reflection of your worth. Disrespectful behavior is often more about the other person's issues, such as their insecurities, stress, or poor communication skills, than it is about you. By understanding this, you can create emotional distance between yourself and the behavior. When someone disrespects you, it helps to remind yourself that it's not about who you are, but about their inability to manage their emotions or communicate effectively. This allows you to deflect any negativity and protect your own sense of self-worth. Over time, this mindset will make it easier for you to deal with disrespect without internalizing it or letting it affect your confidence. Sometimes people act out because they feel misunderstood or ignored. One way to disarm a disrespectful person is to practice active listening. This means not just hearing what they say, but really engaging with it. You acknowledge their feelings, clarify their points, and reflect on what they are trying to communicate. When someone feels heard, they may be less likely to continue their negative behavior. Active listening can help you to identify the root cause of their disrespect, whether it's frustration, misunderstanding, or something else, so you can address it in a constructive way. In turn, this shows empathy and can de-escalate the situation, transforming a negative interaction into a potential opportunity for mutual understanding. Clear, direct communication is key when dealing with disrespect. Assertiveness involves expressing your feelings, needs, and opinions in a calm and respectful manner, while aggression tends to provoke hostility. Being assertive means standing up for yourself without belittling the other person. For example, if someone insults you, instead of retaliating with a sharp or rude response, you could say something like, "I don't appreciate being spoken to that way, and I would like to discuss this matter respectfully." Assertive communication helps you maintain control of the situation while also setting the tone for how you expect to be treated. It's a skill that allows you to be firm yet respectful, creating a balanced dynamic in your interactions. Sometimes the best response to disrespect is to walk away. This doesn't mean you've lost, but rather that you are choosing not to engage in a toxic situation. Walking away can be a powerful statement that you value your peace of mind and will not tolerate poor behavior. If someone continues to disrespect you despite your efforts to set boundaries or communicate clearly, it's okay to disengage. In fact, stepping away can be the wisest decision, especially if you realize that continuing the conversation will only lead to further escalation or emotional exhaustion. By leaving the situation, you regain control, and in many cases, the other person may be left to reflect on their actions in your absence. When dealing with disrespectful people, it's easy to get caught up in the emotional charge of the moment. However, one of the most effective strategies is to stay focused on solutions rather than on the problem itself. If someone is being rude or hostile, shift your attention away from their behavior and toward resolving the issue at hand. Instead of dwelling on how they're treating you, consider what actions can be taken to make the situation better. For example, if the disrespect is happening in a work setting, you could steer the conversation toward finding a productive solution to the task at hand. This mindset prevents you from getting bogged down in negativity and helps you maintain control over the interaction. Empathy is a powerful tool when dealing with disrespect, but it's important to understand the difference between empathizing with someone and accepting their poor behavior. When someone is disrespectful, it can be tempting to respond with defensiveness, but practicing empathy allows you to step into their shoes without tolerating their mistreatment. For instance, if someone is lashing out because of personal problems, you might acknowledge their frustration by saying, "I understand that you're having a difficult time right now, but that doesn't excuse treating me with disrespect." This approach helps you address the underlying emotions that may be driving the behavior while reinforcing the idea that disrespect is not acceptable. Disrespect is sometimes a form of manipulation, especially when someone tries to undermine your confidence or control the situation through guilt or emotional pressure. Recognizing manipulative tactics is key to maintaining your mental and emotional well-being. For example, if someone belittles you in an attempt to make you feel guilty or responsible for their behavior, understanding that this is manipulation allows you to counter it effectively. Once you identify that the behavior is intentional manipulation, you can respond by setting firm boundaries or calmly stating that you will not engage in that kind of interaction. Recognizing manipulation allows you to protect yourself from being dragged into a cycle of disrespectful or unhealthy exchanges. Humor can be a powerful tool for diffusing tension in a disrespectful situation. When used appropriately, humor can lighten the mood and make the situation less hostile. It can also serve as a way to subtly show the other person that their behavior is not as impactful as they may think. For example, if someone makes a rude comment, responding with a lighthearted joke or a clever remark can disarm the situation without escalating it. Humor should always be used carefully, as it can backfire if perceived as sarcasm or mockery. When done right, though, humor can shift the energy of the conversation and create a more positive dynamic, allowing you to move past the disrespect without confrontation. One of the most counterproductive responses to disrespect is getting defensive. When you become defensive, it often validates the other person's disrespect and keeps the conversation in a negative loop. Instead of defending yourself or arguing with the other person, focus on listening and understanding where they are coming from. You can acknowledge their feelings without agreeing with their behavior. By staying calm and refusing to engage in a back-and-forth exchange, you prevent the conversation from escalating. Responding with logic and reason, instead of defensiveness, can often cause the other person to pause and reconsider their approach. When confronted with disrespect, using I statements is an effective way to express how their behavior affects you without sounding accusatory. For example, instead of saying, "You're being rude," you can say, "I feel hurt when you speak to me like that." This approach shifts the focus from blaming the other person to explaining how their behavior impacts your emotional well-being. I statements help to maintain a constructive and respectful dialogue, as they emphasize your feelings without escalating the situation. This method fosters better communication and helps the other person see the consequences of their actions without becoming defensive themselves. While it might be tempting to call someone out in front of others when they disrespect you, this often leads to embarrassment or further hostility. Public confrontations can escalate the situation, as the other person may feel the need to defend themselves in front of an audience, making them more likely to react negatively. Instead, try to address the issue privately, where the conversation can be more open and less likely to turn into an argument. By handling the situation in private, you avoid embarrassing the other person and keep the interaction more respectful and productive. This approach shows that you are concerned with resolving the issue, rather than punishing or humiliating them. When dealing with disrespect, it's important to stay grounded in your core values. People will sometimes try to manipulate or provoke you into responding in ways that go against your principles. By staying true to your values, such as kindness, patience, or fairness, you ensure that you are not dragged into negative behaviors yourself. You can stand firm in your beliefs and still address the situation in a respectful manner. For example, if someone disrespects you by lying, you can calmly correct the misinformation without resorting to dishonesty or retaliatory tactics. Staying true to your values helps you maintain your integrity, regardless of the other person's actions. Nonverbal communication is often just as powerful as words when dealing with disrespectful people. Your body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice all convey messages that can either escalate or de-escalate a situation. If someone is being rude or dismissive, maintaining open, calm body language, such as uncrossed arms, steady eye contact, and a neutral facial expression, can show that you are not intimidated or threatened. Nonverbal cues like nodding to acknowledge their words or maintaining a calm posture can signal to the other person that you are in control and not easily rattled. There are times when dealing with disrespectful people is beyond your capacity to handle alone. If the behavior continues or escalates, it may be necessary to seek support from others. This could mean talking to a supervisor, HR representative, or a trusted friend or colleague. In a workplace setting, if the disrespect crosses professional boundaries, it may be appropriate to escalate the issue to higher authorities. Seeking support can not only provide you with a fresh perspective, but also reinforce that the behavior you are dealing with is unacceptable. Having someone else involved can sometimes lead to a resolution that you might not have been able to achieve on your own. In some cases, especially if the disrespect is consistent and severe, you may need to consider letting go of the relationship. Whether it's a friendship, family dynamic, or workplace relationship, constantly dealing with disrespect can take a toll on your mental and emotional health. It's essential to recognize when the relationship is no longer serving you and when it's better to walk away for your well-being. Letting go of toxic relationships is often a powerful act of self-care, and it allows you to move on to healthier, more supportive connections. While it's important to address the other person's disrespect, it's also worth taking a moment to reflect on your own behavior. Sometimes, misunderstandings or miscommunications can lead to feelings of disrespect. Ask yourself if there are ways you may have contributed to the tension, either intentionally or unintentionally. Self-reflection helps you gain clarity on the situation and allows you to approach it with more empathy and understanding. If you find that your actions have been disrespectful as well, taking responsibility and apologizing can help to diffuse the situation and create a more respectful atmosphere. Not every act of disrespect requires a response. Sometimes ignoring small slights or choosing not to engage in trivial conflicts can be the wisest strategy. Responding to every insult or rude comment can lead to unnecessary stress and frustration. By picking your battles, you conserve your emotional energy for situations that truly matter. This approach allows you to focus on addressing more significant issues and to avoid getting bogged down by petty remarks or insignificant provocations. Deciding when it's worth confronting disrespect and when it's better to let it slide helps you maintain a sense of peace and perspective. Finally, one of the most powerful long-term strategies for dealing with disrespect is to build emotional resilience. The more emotionally resilient you become, the less likely you are to be affected by others' negative behavior. Emotional resilience involves developing a strong sense of self-worth, practicing self-care, and learning how to bounce back from setbacks. The more resilient you are, the less power disrespectful people will have over you. You will be better equipped to handle difficult situations without losing your composure, and you'll be able to maintain your sense of peace regardless of external circumstances. Developing this resilience is a lifelong process, but it ultimately strengthens your ability to deal with all types of challenges, including disrespect,